Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo, DePaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty. The first podcast to bring the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. We have a great show lined up for you guys this week, but first, let's hear who's making the show possible. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Great Days Outdoors magazine. If you hunt or fish in Alabama or the Deep South, you know that it's different down here. Spawning seasons, patterns, and food sources are not the same as they are in other areas of the country. At Great Days Outdoors magazine, Southern outdoor writers pick the brains of the best Southern hunters and anglers and give you the best how-to, where-to, and when-to articles, along with so much more. Pick up a Great Days Outdoors magazine subscription and become a better Southern outdoorsman. Great Days Outdoors magazine can be found at your local Barnes & Nobles, Books A Million, Tractor Supply Company, Rural King, Bass Pro Shops, or you can save and buy online at greatdaysoutdoors.com. And also brought to you by Fishing Chaos fishing tournaments coming up near you. For Alabama saltwater anglers, you'll want to check out these awesome tournaments. The Jimmy Sanders Memorial Mississippi Lionfish Challenge. Spearfishing clubs are encouraged to participate in trying to remove this invasive fish from Gulf waters. This event is scored by the quantity of fish taken. Tickets are currently on sale, and this tournament runs until December 1st, 2021. Details, rules, and ticket purchases are now available for purchase on the Fishing Chaos app. For our kayak anglers, check out the month-long Kayak Saltwater Series Redfish Challenge for September and October. There are Gulf Coast and Atlantic divisions. 5 redfish aggregate link determines the winner. Tickets are available for purchase on the Fishing Chaos app. More tournaments near you, info, and full tournament details, including ticket purchases, can be found online at app.fishingchaos.com in the Find a Tournament tab. And if you do not see your tournament listed, fill out the contact form to have your tournament included. All right, folks, I am Butch Theory. I am here today with Captain Richard Rutland. That's my co-host. How we doing today, Captain Blood?
Man, just glad to be here. Been on the water a lot. Been busy Been busy. Haven't been able to jump on here as a co-host in a while, so I'm looking forward to it, man. Gonna burn her up this afternoon.
Heck yeah, man. We have a really good show planned for you guys. We have a new contributor, Captain Wesley Hallman. We're very excited to hear from. Got a great surf fishing report and have a great offshore report. Did y'all get on the water this morning?
Man, sure did.
Looked a little red this morning whenever I woke up on the radar.
Yeah, it's just like boom. It just fell right back into summertime thunderstorms
Late
again.
Summer thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Exactly what I thought this morning.
Yeah, the last 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, man. Golly, it's just felt like I was getting chased around all day. You know what I mean? And I felt like I got boxed in a couple of times, and it ended up working out. Sometimes when you get boxed in like that, you gotta think way back. Hey, man,
have plan C, D, and E ready.
Yeah, well, you get confined to an area, and you can't move around like you want to get to the flats or to the fish in the water depths where you want them, relating to the tide and water level and all that kind of things. And you got to really think back.
Just kind of cuts off a lot of your options, right?
It does. And I tell you one thing that's helped me with that, especially yesterday, was like I've gotten boxed in before as my job with the Sea Lab before. They would tell me things like, hey, we need to catch slot reds that are this size in this area, but not outside over here or over here, but right here, So you start putting everything under a microscope at that point in a small little area. Like I said, you always just got to think way back. Hey, when have I ever caught some fish in this little area right here? And it's fun. You always kind of surprise myself a little bit with being able to sniff something out and get it done. So
for sure, but that just comes with experience on the water, I would assume.
It does.
Relating back to past experiences and when you've been in that same box before.
Yeah. Oh, God, it's just so frustrating as a guide, though. Because sometimes you really want to stretch your legs and you're not doing something in Mobile Bay and you want to run down to to the other end of the Mississippi Sound or run up by Gilliard Island or something like that, and you can't because you get
Mother Nature has other plans.
Man, so weird. I knew it felt funny too when I woke up Tuesday morning because we flounder fished on Monday together, and then I woke up Tuesday morning. I was like, man, it does not feel nice and cool like it did yesterday. What the heck happened?
It was upsetting.
And I get in guide mode, and I don't even check the weather hardly, like real close. Like when I'm guiding every day, I know I'm going, right. So I'll just kind of see. Wind direction, tide to level. Okay, here I'm going here, and here. And anyway, I was not expecting. It was only like a 30 or 40% chance of thunderstorms yesterday. It got rained on us like half the morning.
Yeah, it poured here pretty much most of the morning, all morning.
Yeah, man. How about flounder tagging the other day? That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I definitely appreciated the invite. I really don't want to talk about my performance that much. Y'all got a little bit of experience on me on that. That's one of those fishings, and I'm admittedly not that great at the kind of bouncing the grub on the bottom kind of deal. It's kind of the same thing as it's just shallower water. I mean, it's just feel and practice.
It is.
I'll do better next time, boss. I promise.
Well, you're not the only one in the room that's gone on a flounder tagging trip and didn't catch one, so we'll get to that in a little while. But it does. It takes some finesse. It takes some feel. It takes some experience. Like I said, like what we were talking about when we were on the boat. I can feel. I've gotten to where I've done it so much when I'm bouncing that grub on the bottom and some of that deeper water stuff. I can feel when I hit a rock. I can feel when I hit a piece of rebar.
Yeah.
I can feel.
When your lure hits something and your line hits something, it feels different.
That's right. And
it's all about time, experience.
It is.
Making them casts, getting in them reps.
Yep, that's it. But, man, I tell you what, it's fun. Fishing's been great. In 2 days we got
16.
Yeah, 16 fish, and then I think we had 3 or 4 tagged the first day, and what?
6.
Yeah. The next, yeah, as far as getting the acoustic tag going with the Sea Lab. For those of y'all that are listening to us, wondering what we're talking about with flounder, the Dauphin Island Sea Lab, University of South Alabama Marine Sciences, we're acoustic tagging flounder. This will be year 3 of acoustic tagging, and what we're doing is catching flounder that are we really want them to be 14, 15 inches before we put an acoustic tag in them, but we basically do surgery on them. We put them on what we call life support, which is a bilge pump with a hose pumping water over their gills, and we make a real small incision in their abdomen, and we insert a tag into their abdomen, and then the tag is probably, I always tell everybody, it looks like it's about the diameter of a AAA battery and about half the length. Mm-hmm. And we put that in the flounder and then suture them back up with stitches, the same stuff you get in the hospital as far as that goes. And then we put them back in the live well, make sure they're going to live and they're doing well, and then we release them. Then Dylan Keene there, the PhD student, who's in charge of all this, he's got these stations set up all over Mobile Bay and all in the rivers where we're doing a lot of the tagging, and he'll be able to see them.
So basically the way I understand it is those fish will go by those stations or get somewhere near them, and it pings that station, right, to give a location on that specific fish with that number tag.
That's right.
So you can kind of map out where they're going through those series of pings.
Right. I always think about when I'm trying to explain this. That old movie U571. The Germans are down there saying, "I am U571, destroy me," or something. That's the same signal that it's an acoustic signal that's saying U571. And we know which fish that is. Yeah. And what they're really wanting to see is, are all the fish going out into the Gulf and spawning, or are some of them staying inshore when we get those first couple cold fronts for the start of winter? When you have these big flounder runs, usually in November about is when that usually happens. And then are they coming back in the bay after?
And when?
Yeah. Afterwards. So
it's definitely cool stuff.
It is neat stuff. It's really cool. The one really neat thing we're seeing right now, as far as all that goes, are some of the recaptures that we've had from some of our anglers. Is the growth rate is unreal.
Yeah, that's what Dylan was saying the other morning.
We're seeing fish that we tagged right at a year ago that were like 16 inches that are 20 inches and 21 inches, where they're growing 4 and 5 inches in a year. And then what Dylan was telling us on the boat the other day is once they hit that about 3 to 4 year mark, their growth starts to slow down. But, man, they're a real fast-growing, quick fish, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Dylan said the oldest flounder they're seeing are 6 to 7 years old. Is that what you remember?
I don't know if I remember him saying that.
I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Need to have him on the show, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Give us a rundown.
He could definitely speak much about it than I
much more scientifically.
Than I can. That's right. So he's got all that crazy data bouncing around in his head that he could fire off at any moment. But
we'll have to get him on to get an update.
But
soon.
It's been really cool, so we've only had 2 trips, really good success both. One was like in super shallow water on the south end of the bay, and then the next one of the tidal rivers up to the north or whatever, and basically had mirror image days as far as the how many tags we got
production.
Out. Yeah. So
that's good. That's good to see. And I've been seeing a ton more flounder pictures. I feel like around. I feel like it's I think the new regulations, and hopefully the hatchery's helping some too. I got to go see that.
Yeah.
Before the Hold the Line tournament, and that was cool, man. It's really cool to see all those flounder in there and the flatfish and all they're doing. It's wild. It's a heck of a facility.
I tell you what really blew my skirt up about the little bit of flounder fishing we've done so far is all the little bitty fish. Like we've been catching like 8 to 10, 12-inch fish, and there's a bunch of them, you know what I mean? We're catching almost as many of those little undersized fish as we are the tagger-sized fish, which just tells me, man, heck, those fish are going to be keepers next year, and, like, we're catching a bunch.
Yeah.
I caught 3 that size on my trip today.
That's awesome.
On my trip today, and heck, I went.
It's got to be a good sign.
Yeah, like I was talking about, we didn't even fish that long today before the rain got us. You know, so pretty cool stuff, man. Really looking up. I'm not sure what's driving that, but hopefully it'll
keep on going.
Yeah, man. Golly.
Yep. Heck yeah. All right, man. Well, let's get into this thing.
All right, Butch, going to go on down to Dolphin Island, south end of Mobile Bay for our inshore report today. Pleasure for me to introduce one of my good buddies on the show. First time we've had him on there, Wesley Hallman. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you, man.
Man, Wes, since your first time on here, why don't you just give us a little rundown about your background a little bit and
kind of boat you're running?
Yeah, tell us about what your main species that you target, where you like to operate out of. Just give folks a little bit of an idea about you.
I grew up in Mobile, and I'm from Fowl River area, so very familiar with Dolphin Island. Grew up on there in summers as a kid, and just started guiding full time. This is the end of my 4th year, coming up on 5 years now. I run a 2,400 Blazer Bay.
2,400 feet.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a battleship.
We go out in anything, bro.
Yeah. That's a battleship,
we're not
not a bay boat.
It is a tank though, so I'll give it
boats.
that.
Yep.
But the 2,400 Blazer Bay is definitely a tank, very versatile boat, awesome for this fishery here around Mobile. Awesome guide boat, love it, been pleased with it. And as far as fishing goes, predominantly I like to call myself a speckled trout guide because that's pretty much what I target at the beginning of the day, and where it leads to there, and redfish, flounder. Hey, whatever keeps my customers happy, I'm happy with. So.
Heck yeah,
gotta keep that rod bent, Cap.
Action.
Yep, that's right.
Action.
Tug is a drug, man.
We don't think
right.
about that a lot. We get kind of sucked into this guide world where everybody wants constant action, and you got to give them what they want. So
sometimes that may not be your desired species.
Right. It's what makes them happy, you know. So and you try your hardest, obviously, but you do a lot of moving around, Richard. Richard, you know that. I know you do a lot of running
stick
around.
Stick and move. That's what I always say. It comes to being a good inshore, really a good inshore or offshore captain is knowing when to stick and knowing when to move. You know what I mean? You sometimes you gotta fine tune something where you're at to stick, and then sometimes you just need to get
sometimes you gotta punt.
Get the heck out of Dodge, man. You know.
That's right.
That's what's nice about having these bigger bay boats that we like to run, man. As guides, having good equipment really goes a long way, because when you do need to move, sometimes you need to make a significant move to find something that's happening. Man, it's nice to be fast, be comfortable, be able to go through a 2-foot
Yeah,
bait
you may
drop
have to go across the bay or something.
And stay dry while you're doing it.
Yeah, with some ease. So I been kind of watching you come up since you started 4 years ago, man, and I'm seeing nothing but flying colors, man. You're just really hitting the nail on the head.
Awesome.
Doing a real good job. So we're kind of getting into a transition period here with speckled trout, man. Yeah, not just speckled trout, but with a lot of species right now. So one of my favorite times of the year is September in October, have everybody in the world always ask you, hey, man, what's your favorite time to go fishing? When's the best time to be here? I'd always say kind of my standard answer is May and June and October and November, and we're right here on the cusp of October. We got a little cool off. Last week, I saw the water temperature drop really about 15 degrees from what I was seeing before. And it kind of bumped back up here in the past couple of days. Was seeing down into the mid 70s, right around 75, 76. Now I'm seeing 79 to 80, and the days are starting to shorten up. So I know the fish are feeling that. Bait kind of all over the place, So what have you been up to lately? What are you chasing after and
seeing as far as pattern go?
And how you doing it?
Definitely seeing the fall transition pattern happening for sure. I mean, the life everywhere you go is the key. I mean, if I pull up somewhere and I don't really see life, I'm kind of already hesitant to spend a lot of time fishing there.
Yeah, to even wet a line.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, we need action. And, it just helps a lot to really patrol an area when you see, mullet jumping or pogies flipping or some finger mullet troubling the top of the water. I saw pretty much every life form that you could think of in the bait world was just available everywhere. I mean, even from like Middle Bay south, actually earlier in the week, me and Captain Mugley went out kind of near shore, and we just as much life out there as there is inshore.
Oh, yeah.
But predominantly, man, I've just been kind of making my days in the Sound and the North Shore. There's been a lot of bait up there. Like I said, just every kind of bait you could think of.
How about all the shrimp?
I was just about to say, we saw a lot of shrimp on Monday.
The shrimp is just, and I tell you, the crazy thing about the shrimp right now is I'm seeing giant wads of shrimp. I mean, I went up on the causeway on a play date with a friend of mine last Thursday, and we were trying to catch pogies so we could go catfishing. Okay, I went catfish jugging up there the other day, and man, we were catching shrimp in the cast net in like just the nastiest dirty water you ever seen. And we saw like 3 or 4 bait shrimpers up there, and then maybe on Sunday when Dylan and I started flounder tagging, seeing shrimp everywhere around Dolphin Island Bridge area. And then today, being down in the Mississippi Sound is where we got it, a lot of it done. Seeing shrimp flip all over the place and fish up, grabbing them, and birds diving. It's so cool to see all those shrimp.
And big shrimp, too.
Oh, yeah.
Not like some little bitty marsh shrimp on top of the water. I'm talking about these guys look like.
Oh, yeah.
Big old whiskers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were just.
Yeah, 10, 12 count shrimp. Yeah, like them grilling size.
Big old kebab shrimp.
But, yeah, that's what we've been seeing a lot of up north. And, the speckled trout bite's been really hot for us.
Still
and quality trout, too.
Still a live bait thing, or are you seeing anything transition into artificial fin fish? Or
I haven't even been using bait, honestly. The voodoo have been working great. The smaller voodoo, they've been getting the job done.
What are your favorite colors?
So my favorite color is the chartreuse, the whole chartreuse 2-inch.
I've been noticing you guys going to that one too.
Yeah. Yep.
I like the white with the chartreuse tail. I know it gets stained and dirty and like in your tackle box. If you keep a bunch of them in there, they kind of, any kind of
intermingle. I've noticed that.
Yeah, they'll get a little stain to them, and I think that makes a difference. Some people might not, but I like the natural color too. And another one is the purple with the chartreuse tail.
Oh man,
I love that.
Like them damn LSU colors, you like them?
No. We can't go down that road.
No doubt.
But no, the purple and the chartreuse tail, man, I really like it in some dirty water.
Oh,
especially,
man, I'm giving me a little tip there, man. I'm going to try some. I haven't tried that one yet. I've never bought one of those.
I don't see them a lot. Today I was in Academy kind of just killing some time. And
I don't know if I've ever even seen those.
Yeah, I didn't see any today. All I've seen is the natural and the chartreuse. But the chartreuse is definitely my go-to until somebody like loses. It starts getting low on them. I'm like, all right, when you start using the natural.
Yeah.
So
keep those for special days.
Yeah, my go-tos are that chartreuse, pearl with the chartreuse tail, pearl with a pink tail are kind of my go-tos. That natural one, I don't know. It's like hit or miss sometimes with them.
I feel
think
the
when
same
it's
way.
on, it doesn't matter what color
That's
it
right.
is. You know what I mean?
That's right.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It really
That's right.
doesn't. You know, you just need.
But when the fish are picky, you might have to change colors up a little bit.
That's
Yeah.
right. It's like this time of year, man. Maybe I'll just do it just to do something funny, you know. But I really want to put like a piece of daggone beef jerky on a on a hook under a popping cork and throw it around. I bet they'll eat it. You
I'm
know
sure.
what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Yep. Also, too, I want to add that our quality fish, a lot of them came from topwater. You know, that fin fish, when we were in fin fish, other words, when we didn't see shrimp, when we saw more fin fish in our area, the topwater prevailed. They wouldn't eat a shrimp.
Really?
No, you might catch a little, undersized trout every now and then, but
Mm-hmm.
your quality fish, your action, was definitely coming on topwater. The only bad thing was it was kind of a short-lived bite, but it
Better
is
than no
what it
bite.
is, right? Before the sun kind of gets up and kind of kills that.
Have you been trying to switch over to a slick and see if they'll react to that, or?
I would throw the slick when we were in a little deeper water. The shallow water, I felt like it didn't really get its full potential. Like fishing Grand Bay, that area, you got a lot of shallow areas.
Yep.
And I felt like it really wasn't getting its full potential as far as cadence and what the fish is seeing. So we just kind of fished with the little slick, because you can't go wrong with a little slick,
That's right.
especially in shallow water. We caught a lot of flounder on the little slick.
I was just about to say, have you guys tried the little slick some on the flounder?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Works well.
Yeah, it does.
Yep. It's like I put them under a popping cork too.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Patrick likes to do that some too. I
You
know.
can't beat the little slick.
I know a lot
Yeah.
of the guys in Louisiana do that too a lot.
Those little owner twist lock like 4/0 hooks are really great for specifically for that little slick for the cork presentation. The thing I really like about that little owner twist lock is it comes in a bunch of different weighted sizes. Like I've almost gotten to where I'm using that on a tight line. You know what I mean? Like just fluorocarbon leader and work. Same setup I'd use if I was throwing a slick lure. You can't throw it
Near as far.
Yeah,
right.
but for some of that flounder fishing, that shallow water flounder fishing, I'd like to start kind of maybe diving into that here in a second with you, Wesley.
Yeah.
Because I know you've been having some success on some flounders lately as well. But man, that hook is great because it just kind of gives that little slick almost the same type of action you're getting out of the big slick, but on a much smaller scale,
Yeah.
And when I think of a big slick, I'm not thinking about bouncing that thing off the bottom and making it kind of twist and turn and hop and do all that. That's more of a upper part of the water column bait,
Mid upper part of the water column.
That's right. With the little bit smaller presentation, you can almost work it like a grub on the bottom, and you give yourself weedless too. You're not
right.
hanging up on shells and rocks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I did catch a really nice piece of rebar the other day whenever we were flounder
man.
fishing.
Hey, it won't top what I caught that day. I caught the cordless power drill.
I did. He was
We
telling me
talked
that.
about the power drill.
We did.
That was
I
awesome.
forgot that was you, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we were
did
in
talk
that.
about
We were
that.
in that same spot
That's right.
over in Dog, and we were sitting there we were sitting there getting hung up all morning, like exactly what you're supposed to do when you're flounder fishing. And I said, man,
It's
we
frustrating.
caught a drill over here one time.
Yep, he did
It was
tell me.
a Milwaukee cordless
That's a good
power
one.
drill.
Oh yeah, you never
that's
know
a good
what
one.
Dog River's going to give you now.
No, you
Especially
don't.
around that area.
That'll happen on them big jobs.
They will.
Flounder fishing though, man, to me that's the hot topic right now. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, yeah.
we know what all the trout and redfish and stuff are going to be doing, staging outside these rivers here before too long, and
Right.
I'm gonna start looking around up by the Delta. I tell you what's really neat. We were running along this morning. It was slick calm, and I was checking tide levels and wind and all that kind of stuff while we're easing along. I was like, man, let me check Barry Steam Plant. Barry Steam Plant was at like 5 feet. And you could see the bump in the tide on there, and it was just up at like 7 or 8 feet. And somebody posted a picture of the bay the other day on Facebook, and it did look kind of like it was muddy, but the stuff I've been seeing down south end, it's not really muddy. It's just got a stain to it, and you can tell looking at the froth in your wake, there's not like a lot of salt right there, but that's not going to last real long. As long as we don't get any more upstate rain, So, man,
That's
I've got
the kicker.
I've got my fingers crossed about that Delta. Everything should start staging outside of all the tidal rivers here before too long with as far as the trout and the redfish go. But, man, these flounder.
Yeah.
The flounder thing has been real. It's been
hot.
It's been so much fun. I rarely ever have too many clients or customers ever ask me to go flounder fishing. I've never turned anybody down.
Right.
But it's starting to get when there's a bunch of them around and you could actually make a day out of doing it.
For sure.
You know? What have you been seeing? How you been tackling them lately?
As far as flounder goes, we had an incredible day this past week. When we caught, I think we boated 10. And of course we probably missed 3 or 4. But my clients, they were excellent anglers. They could cast really well, so they were constantly fishing and made a lot of our time.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does for sure. The bites were subtle, but they were like, ooh, that's a flounder bite kind of bite, because we were catching them all on popping corks with voodoo shrimp. It was no secret. We were just really red fishing, and we just kind of came across them, and we just worked them. Instead of having redfish on our mind, we just kind of worked it like flounder fishing, and we noticed that they were in a pattern. They were in a certain area of water depth. They weren't just scattered everywhere. And it was a nice incoming tide too. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
Were you getting a little drift out of your corks? Or
Exactly. We had that good incoming tide that would bounce that voodoo off
the
the bottom
bottom
because, we were in pretty shallow water. So we were covering ground without having to physically cover ground, if that makes sense.
Oh,
For sure.
It just had a nice incoming tide, and the north wind was keeping it from really moving too hard, and I think that helped our advantage. It just covered the ground, did the work for us, and
that makes it nice.
Yes, and they were very active. And I noticed one thing too, that once you hooked one and the fish realized it was hooked, they were like fighting really hard. They were peeling off almost like reds. And we caught one that was close to 5 pounds, and we were almost sure that it was a red, went all the way up in the grass, and I was like, there's a redfish,
Oh, yeah.
And
that's what we're here for, right?
Dang doormat.
Yeah, my client kept saying, he was like, man, I just want to catch a red. That's what I'm trying for him. I'm trying to put him in the best place to catch a red. And I'm like, I'm sorry you're having to catch all these delicious flounder,
right. That's a good problem to have there, Cap.
But
man, you can have a redfish. I'll take a 5-pound flounder all day.
long.
He was definitely converted after the end of that trip.
Oh, yeah.
He was all about flounder, and his wife, she was super cool. They were just crazy. They loved the flounder thing. So
let's maybe talk a little bit about, we're not going to get on your green here on the podcast. We're not going to ask you exactly where you caught your fish, but maybe talk about the habitat, the lay of the land.
I was curious about, whether it's mud bottom or what made that hot for flounder.
Yeah, is there a real unique feature that stuck out to you about some of these areas you've been hitting on? And you've already kind of talked about current a little bit. You definitely had a little current helping you move your lure and whatnot.
The biggest thing I thought was really cool was when we actually found places that were predominantly shell. Because when you stick your power poles in, you can hear what you're in.
Oh yeah, you can definitely hear them dragging on shell.
And a good fisherman that has power poles, that's something you should always be listening out for. Like you always say, keep your head on a swivel. So all those different little ticks and tacks, man, they really help you kind of know your environment. Because if you don't know your environment, you really can't use it to your full advantage. But when I started hearing the shells catching the power pole, I was like, okay, this is where we're getting bit. They like this kind of terrain right here, so let's back off, reset up. I know where we want to focus on fishing. And that's where we were having our luck with a more shelly bottom and not just like a soup mud bottom, and it was more of an established drop-off. So like on my side scan, I could see like, okay, it's 1.5 feet here, and then all of a sudden it's 3.5 feet, which is that's a pretty big jump.
Oh yeah,
that's a nice ledge. So that's where, right on that ledge is where we were catching them. So I think that's why we were successful, is because we saw what was happening and we applied to it, and were successful because we stayed in that general area and didn't like just say, okay, there's got to be fish here. Let's just fish this whole thing, and when you can, if you target the right spots, you're going to have more outcome, obviously. But
That's something I've said on the show 100 zillion times, is when you start having success, what was I doing? Why am I having that success? You got to ask yourself that question, you know what I mean? And just like you said you came across a little area, figure out there's a few shells there, looked at your side scan, figure there's a nice little drop, boom. That's why those fish were there.
Yeah, there's definitely a reason.
And then to go being more successful in the future, you got to think about things like you got to think about where those other conditions lie like that, and you go and fish them, and you might not always catch fish there, but having that forward thinking is going to make you a better fisherman. You got to ask yourself.
It's like having a playbook.
Yeah. That's right. That's exactly right. I'll definitely give you some credit. You told me that you'd caught some flounder that way in some shallow water. I think you said you're on a big point as well. And I recreated the same thing probably 15 miles away from where you were, where you were fishing. And I recreated the same thing. And we caught them on grub up in that 2 to 3 foot of shallow water. And then, I busted out the popping cork because I had that,
in the back of your
floating
mind.
around the back of my head from when you and I had talked, and man, that caught us I think I caught like another 5 or 4 or 5, something like that. I went on a deadgum tear that day. I think we caught 10 fish, and I caught all 7. I caught 7 of them.
Nice.
It's funny. We were talking about that on Monday too. It's funny how you get the hot hand sometimes.
It is.
Oh man,
it's a lot of confidence, man. I was sitting there working that thing going, man, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but you catch 2 or 3 and get on a groove, and you're like, all right, I can't miss, you know what I mean?
Well, and it's funny that you were talking about fishing for flounder with grubs and feeling the bite and feeling stuff you're running into. And I think just to add to that, your rod is everything.
Oh, yeah.
If you're grub fishing and you can't feel your grub when it hits the ground or like whatever bottom you're on and it comes settled, and you can't feel that in your rod, I would suggest shopping for a new rod.
Yeah.
Something very fast
changing, like if you're using like fluorocarbon or mono versus braid,
you're not going to have that much success if you can't feel that subtle of a.
And leader length too. I mean, if you've got 18 inches of leader tied to braid versus 4 foot of leader tied to braid, you're talking about a world of difference in feel.
Yeah.
And you might not think that, but the way that fluorocarbon kind of floats, in the water, or lies in the water rather, it's a big deal, especially when you're fishing in 2 foot of water.
Right. So do you like more or less leader when you're in that shallow water?
Definitely more.
Okay.
I like more just because, for one, I like more because every time you tie and change lures, you don't have to tie a new leader.
Right.
I'm a big fan of the FG knot, and it stays very well, so that's why I do tie the longer leaders, because I'm confident in that knot, and I take the time to tie it right, because that's so important. Don't get lazy and just be like, oh, well, that's good enough, because you're losing already. But the longer
you're delaying
leader,
the inevitable, really.
The mad scientist.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah,
He's got the bug.
I like it.
I've got my Bunsen burner over here. I'm about to pull it out. I want to show y'all something cool. But no, the longer leader is definitely better, in my opinion, and the way that bait lies. But the tip, man, what kind of action you've got, and the quality of your rod, the wrap in it, that's everything. Because, like I said, I mean, I can say it all day. If you can't feel when that bait settles after you've worked a cadence, then you definitely need to.
That's when I set the hook. If I can't feel
right?
it hit, if I don't feel it hit the bottom, I set the hook.
Hopefully,
that means somebody's swimming at me.
That's right.
Hopefully,
for sure.
Yeah.
But with flounder, it's obviously a different bite. But I've noticed too that you can always give in to something, and it's okay to just kind of pull you a little attention. You don't have to lay the wood
Hammer
to it
every single
time.
Yep, I definitely agree with that.
But you can definitely cheat a little bit and just kind of feel where you're at. And if you feel that weight, a lure is not going to just drag in a fish's mouth. You might drag over a stump or some grass or a shell, and you can feel that. That comes into play with a nice rod, and a well-built rod, rather. But, just giving that little tug, just to make sure, kind of reassure yourself, you've still got time to set the hook.
Yeah.
And like we were saying, I think a lot of that just comes with time.
But if you're going to set it, By all means, set
Set it.
Don't play around.
Come out of your shoes.
So, y'all, with this talk right here, you got me laughing in my mind because Dylan Keene, who we're doing the tagging with, his dad was a big flounder fisherman. He was this big. I'm pretty sure he's a New Yorker. You know, had this big, thick New York accent or whatever. You know, and Dylan will.
So he's a fluke fisherman.
That's right, fluke up there.
I don't think he fished for flounder until he got down here or whatever. Figured out a lot of that. But anyway, Dylan was talking about how his dad was teaching him when he was young, and he's like, "Hey, Junior, hey, look, I got one on the line, you know, see, I got him. I can pull him to me a little bit, man. He's got it right now. I'm about to stick him, you know." And
Forget about it.
He had me laughing so hard when he was telling me that. But Dylan does, I mean, everybody does everything different. But Dylan, I always know when he's over there screwing with a fish because he'll have one, and I'll see him over there, and he'll kind of pull it to him a little bit. And Dylan likes to move the fish a little bit before he sets the hook, you know, make sure – that the fish has got it, because a lot of times they'll grab onto it and just hold it, right? And then other times when they're biting, they'll just freaking choke it right down to their gut first thing, you know what I mean? As soon as they strike the bait, it's in their freaking stomach, you know? And then other times they're kind of nibbling on it a little bit, you know?
Yeah, he's a good fisherman.
And I've really started to take that mindset a little bit. Now, when we're doing this tagging thing, we're trying to stick them in the mouth and not in the gut, you know? If you're meat fishing – if you get a flounder bite on a grub, freaking man, you could flip the bail over, open up a sandwich, and pop a beer open and let them choke on it, you know, before you even think about setting the hook.
A couple times the other morning, Dylan was like, "All right, I got one." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I got one."
Oh yeah.
And then he would ease into it.
Yeah, and you see him over there just he moves the fish a little bit, make sure the fish has got it, man, and then he'll rear back and set the hook, you know. But well, another thing, too, that Dylan and I were talking about, I don't remember if it was on, I'm pretty sure it was, no, I think it was the day before on Sunday, but was talking about when you catch a flounder, when you're fighting a flounder, you have got to do everything you can, in my opinion, to keep the fish coming at you. Because you don't realize it, but these flounder can swim backwards.
And keep his head in the water.
They can swim away from you and open their mouth, man. And if you ever see a flounder open their mouth, they can eat a big bait.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but the ability for them to swim backwards and open that mouth and shake that head, you've absolutely got to do everything you can, in my opinion, to keep them coming at you. And even if you're waiting on your net man or whatever, you know, sweep the fish one way, back the other, keep him coming at you, because as soon as you give him 1 inch, he's going to shake that hook out of his mouth and he's going to be gone. You know, keep them moving, got to keep the line tight, you know.
Yeah. There was one fish that morning that Dylan caught and you netted, and as soon as you netted it, I'm pretty sure that fish never had a hook in his mouth.
I don't know if he did either.
I think he was just hooked on. He was just had that grub in his mouth.
He was hanging on the grub.
I don't think he ever had a hook in his mouth.
I believe it.
Yeah, Dylan. I mean, because like these daggum tagging operations, man. Like some days bites are few and far between. You know, some days we have 10 fish days. You know what I mean? The other days we only catch like 2 or 3, something like that. When somebody thinks they got one, you better
take it serious.
You got to, you know. Right. And it was like Dylan said, "Hey, I think I got one," and I got over there with the net, and thank goodness I did, because I really do think.
I don't think he ever had.
I don't think he had the hook in him. I think he was holding on to that bait so hard.
That dude was hungry, huh?
He was,
man. Yeah.
Yep. Well, man, that's a great inshore segment. Glad you got to give us the inshore report today, Wesley. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you, and what's your business name, etc.?
I've got a website, baysoundfishing.com, and my number 251-222-0029. Always give me a call if you got any questions. I love talking fishing, and I just appreciate you guys having me.
Heck yeah, man. Look forward to hearing from you next time.
And when I first came in here, you know, I thought I was kind of tuned into 96.1 The Rocket because I was listening to a couple of legends. But I had to remind myself it was, you know, Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report.
You better say the Paul Feinbaum show, okay? That's what I'm going for. Okay? I want to be Paul. Better call Paul or whatever.
I love it, man. Well, we definitely appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing from you next time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Let's take a minute to, before we get into our next report, let's go see what Joe By is doing over at the Northwest Florida Fishing Report. What y'all doing over there in Northwest Florida, Joe?
Man, really what I'm doing is I'm a little bit salty about this hot weather coming back. I really enjoyed last weekend. That weather was absolutely perfect. The humidity's back. It's summer again.
Yep. It is very tropical feeling outside. It's the wet blanket of hate is back.
Yeah.
I was definitely upset about getting chased around by thunderstorms the past 2 days.
Radar looked pretty gnarly this morning.
Yeah, yesterday was way worse than this morning, but yeah, no, not fun.
What we got today, Joe?
Yeah, I wanted to take a minute, and we're going to start doing this a little bit more often to just kind of go over some safety aspects of being a boater, being an angler. There's a lot of things that I think we all learn at some point. Just think about it. You learn
the
fundamentals. Yeah, but you learn fundamentals. Like you get take your boater safety course, and you learn a lot of these fundamentals. But unless you're quizzing yourself regularly, you forget a lot of this stuff. And I think it's just going to be good for us to kind of keep a reminder of some of the different safety aspects on the water. It's kind of like you ever had a CPR course,
Yeah.
If you take CPR, you're in there that day, you're like, yeah, I could save somebody's life. And then the next time you take that course, you're like, I have forgotten everything, seems like.
Happens quick.
Yeah, man, today what we really want to talk about is what you should do if your boat runs aground. And really, if you run your boat aground, your boat just doesn't run aground on its own.
Agreed.
But yeah, to do that this week, we're talking with MacClean of TowBoatUS out of Pensacola. Mac, welcome to the podcast, man. Before we jump into what you really need to be thinking about if you're unfortunate enough to run aground, tell everybody a little bit about your coverage area for TowBoatUS and what you do over there.
Yes, and nice to be on here. My coverage area is roughly between Navarre Bridge, pretty much west of the Navarre Bridge, and east of Bon Secours area. That's where I pick up personally. On the other sides of me, my fellow towers pick up, to the west with like Mobile, and then to the east with Destin area. I mean, I cover inland, all the inland waterways, your rivers, your bays and everything, and we also cover offshore as well. So it's pretty much freshwater and saltwater, just all within that area.
I imagine in your line of business, you see all different kinds of safety violations, safety problems, things that happen to folks on the water, unfortunately, that get them into trouble. I've definitely been there before. It's bound to happen once you spend enough time on the water. But today is something that thankfully I've never had an issue of with. I have definitely run a boat aground before, unfortunately, but I haven't had any real big problems other than I had to maybe get in get my pants wet,
Maybe get a little wet,
do a little dragging, a little pushing. It can get dicey. I've seen some situations that were much worse than that. So that's the focus of today's segment. So before we jump into what you should do if you run aground, what should you really be doing to avoid running aground?
Well, I mean, I think it's best if you can get a good knowledge of your local area that you're going to be boating in. Do some due diligence and, get some charts of the area. You can go online and look at some electronic charts if you want, so that way you can kind of zoom in on the areas that you're going to be focusing on, and you can look for any things, such as sandbars or obstructions that you might run across. Also, I think it's kind of a good idea sometimes on some of the local forums, if you can check out and see if there are any, topics about that, to see if there's any local places where people have problems in those areas. Invest in a good, chart plotter for your boat and a depth sounder. I mean, that way you'll have an idea of where you are in location to the area where your boat is actually at, as long as you learn how to use the GPS. A lot of people get them and put them on there, and they'll have a $2,000 machine, and they don't know how to bring it back to center and see where the boat is centered in the map. But, as long as you're able to use the machine, you know how it works, you're following that, and you're checking your depth sounder, that should be good for the most of it, unless there's some, unforeseen obstruction that you hit out there. Another good idea, it's like, I like it when people call me whenever they come to visit my area and they're not very familiar with the area. They call me and ask me, what do I need to look out for in the area? Because honestly, there's probably not many more people than me that know actually where people go aground at. I mean, it's pretty consistent within the area. Whenever I get a grounding in a certain area, I can usually tell you what they hit, because it's constant. It just happens in the same places a lot of times.
That was a lot of great info there, Mac. I was kind of chuckling when you asked the question there, Joe, what should you do to avoid running aground? And my answer to it is to run aground enough times to know where everything is to run aground at. Okay. So,
hey, wait a minute.
But I'm just going to say it's going to happen to everybody. You know what I mean? You're definitely going to run aground. I haven't had like a bad case of running aground in several years, but I still do brush the bottom a little bit every once in a while. I'll get a brand new boat, and it usually doesn't take very long for the daggum paint to be gone off of the skeg. So I live in shallow water, but I get that question a lot of times. How do you figure out how to navigate an area and whatnot? My standard answer is hit every sandbar out there, and then you know. But I like Mac's direction with it there, with getting a good GPS.
It's crazy how accurate the electronics are these days.
They are, and get good local knowledge. Nothing trumps local knowledge. You know, like Joe said, Mac said, hey, pick up the phone and call me. You could easily call me. You could call anybody, you know what I mean? And most folks are going to be helpful around.
Be willing to share.
Yep, yeah. Around our area here.
Mac, one of the things I'm thinking about when you're talking about these chart plotters, I love all the technology that's out there, and and it's giving you the average depths in those areas, which we know those depths are going to fluctuate with certain tides and things of that nature. But one of the things I've always struggled with is I'm looking at a chart plotter and it's telling me, all right, I got 2 foot depth here, got a 3 foot depth here. And I'm thinking, all right, my boat drafts 18 inches, ought to be good right in that area. And then I get in that area and I find myself trying to get up on plane and I'm scrubbing, that whole shot is causing me to actually not run aground, but actually hit bottom. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about how someone can use those charts, because if you're in 2 foot of water and there's a oyster bar there, well, that ain't going to be 2 feet deep. That's going to be below that. So for different types of anglers running different types of boats, I wonder if you just kind of could share the depths where you really start to say, all right, in these areas, when I start seeing depths of this many feet, that's when I'm going to get really, really focused on any kind of obstructions or what you're really looking for in those danger areas.
Well, it all depends on where you're at. If you're out in open water and it's just, a sandy bottom, you got a lot more room for error. But if you're up a river or you're in one of those places that are like an oyster bed or something like that, even if it says 2 to 3 feet there, you got to plan on tide conditions and everything else. If we have a hard north wind and it blows all the water out of a back little bayou area, even though it's supposed to be 2 to 3 feet, that doesn't mean that it's going to be. So a lot of times people get stranded in those areas because they get up in there during high tide and then the water goes out and, it doesn't matter what you have. I can't take a jet ski and pull a 25-foot boat with that because that's what it would take to draft that water. I guess one of the biggest things that I can tell people whenever you're navigating, unfamiliar areas, slow down. It's a lot easier to recover from an accident at slow speeds than it is up on top on plane, because you're going to go a lot further in shallow water up on top than you are at 5 to 6 knots. So Get familiar with the area before you try and haul butt through there.
Great, man. All right. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen to you, but like Richard said, it's going to happen to you at some point. So when you run aground, what's the first thing you're thinking about, Mac? If you're responsible for this craft, what's the very first thing you're thinking about when you run aground?
Conventional thought would be to check and see if everybody's okay. But the problem that I see with that scenario is that, the boat is typically a moving, object, and you need to make sure that your boat's secure before you can successfully, check and make sure that everybody's either there or okay. Because a lot of times if you don't secure your vessel first, then you may cause additional injuries and such, afterwards, or you may cause additional damage to the boat. Take stock of the scenario that you're in. If you've hit the beach and you're high and dry, you're not going to sink. So first and foremost, I would shut the motor off, so that you don't catch the boat on fire by sitting there running, with no water running through it. Or you don't have a spinning propeller in the back of your boat whenever somebody, jumps out. So you got that side, or if you just hit something randomly and you're still in deep water, I would check my surroundings and make sure that I can secure the vessel long enough so that I can make a good assessment of everybody on board. If you're close to the surf or you're close to the rocks or something like that afterward, toss the anchor out. It's not like a car. Whenever you have an accident or something breaks down, you can't just put it in park. That's what the anchor's for, is to go ahead and secure yourself so that you don't wind up on the rocks, or you don't wind up in the surf line with everybody on board the boat getting beaten by waves. Once you've got your boat in a decently secure situation, then you can start looking around the boat and, make sure everybody's okay, make sure everybody's present. Then it's just a matter of trying to figure out whether it's something that you're going to be able to handle, whether it's something that you're going to have to call in a professional to come and handle it, or whether you're going to have to call emergency services because, you have significant injuries or a risk of sinking. So, there's a bunch of different scenarios that it could go. I guess it all depends on it's like triage, like you said. We got to figure out what needs to happen next. And it's a fight or flight. Whenever people have this happen, their mind's going 20 different directions. You got to slow it down and be a little bit more prepared and, like I said, assess the situation so you can move forward best.
Mac, that's exactly what I was going to say right there, what you finished up with. When these situations do happen, it is triage, it's chaos, it's emergency. You feel like you're in an emergency situation. And the things I see around here are people will have a grounding or something like this happen and then just get to going and freaking out. Yeah.
Get in a frenzy. Yeah.
Panic. And the thing to do is to slow
Stay
down.
calm is a big deal.
Just stay calm.
Throw your anchor. Like, that was a great point.
Yep. Assess your situation there.
Check the bilge.
That's right. Start kind of going through like a slow checklist. You're not going.
Am I taking on water?
That's right.
If you hit something random.
Yep. You're usually not going anywhere too fast, so
Right.
you don't have to worry about that. You said something about an anchor too. It's amazing with that's something I kind of get on to people about
Not having an anchor.
Well, yeah, these guys with
It's like, well, I got a power pole and an iPilot.
yeah,
Well,
GPS
that won't
troll.
save you.
Yeah, GPS trollometer. That doesn't slow you down from going into a set of rocks if you have something bad happen. So having some good safety equipment is for sure high on the list.
Yeah, I really like that a lot, Mag. First get the boat secured, do no more damage, do no harm. Secondarily, get everyone else secure, and then you can take the time, slow down, and assess the situation and determine what my saying is always, what's the alligator in the boat? Because the alligator in the boat is the thing you need to be focused on right now, is that alligator in the boat. So what are some of those alligators that might be in the boat? We may be thinking about, you could knock the foot off your engine. You could, I guess, breach the hull and have a leak. If you're going through your safety checks, let's just assume we've run aground or we've hit something in a river system. I've definitely experienced that as well. No fun. You've run aground or you've hit something, you've gotten the boat secured, everybody's okay. You're running through your safety checks to be able to get back out on the water. You're going to get yourself back moving again, hopefully. Take me through the different systems that you want to look at and make sure everything's running like it should be before you start trying to get ungrounded.
Well, it's one of the things that I've really, I watched the show here, and I think it was a commercial, and one of the things that was like, stay in your lane. And if you don't know a whole lot about boats, or you're not a professional mariner, don't jump off into stuff that you don't completely understand, because that's going to get you in more trouble down the road. If you're an experienced mariner, you know your boat very well, then yeah, go through your checklist, make sure, check all your compartments, make sure you don't have any water in the compartments. Then you got to figure out, what type of propulsion system do you have? Are you straight inboard? Are you inboard, outboard? Are you outboard? Each one of these different things determines a different set of things that you need to check for before you start moving on. And it's hard for me to say, one specific thing, because like I said, we're talking with three, possibly, there's jet drive too. So that's a fourth propulsion system that you would have to worry about. But I would, first of all, make sure you're not taking on water. Then, check and make sure that, that you have, are we talking about once you're back on the water, or getting prepared to go back on the water?
Yeah, getting prepared is what I'm thinking, is like, hey, we're aground, everybody's safe. We're going to try to get off. Because you don't want to, if you've got a breach in your hull, but you're grounded, you definitely don't want to get out in deep water.
Yeah.
Let's keep her right there where she is until we can do something about that problem. Same thing with whatever your propulsion system is. If you've damaged your running gear, or no matter what kind of propulsion system you've got, if you've damaged your running gear, it's probably going to be best, I would imagine, for you to just stay right where you are and call some type of tow and service. So yeah, what are you doing to get prepared to get ungrounded, get back on the water?
Well, I mean, determine what you went aground on. Did you go aground on sand? Did you go aground on mud? Are you sitting high and dry in the middle of an island? Are you on rocks? There's a lot of different scenarios to where there's some things you can recover from, a light grounding, to where sometimes all you got to do is lighten the boat up a little bit, trim the outboard up and push the boat out, and then you can keep on going. But, if you're sitting there high and dry, don't go get a bunch of drunk guys sitting on the beach to try and, lift your boat up or push your boat back in the water. I mean, somebody's going to get hurt trying to do that. And everybody always thinks that they can do more than they're capable of. Flag somebody down, they throw you their 3/8-inch nylon 3-strand line and stretch out, 100 or so feet of that and start tugging on you. If that line parts, it's like a rubber band and it's going to hit people on both sides of it. So I personally say, if you don't know what you're doing and you're in a situation to where you don't know what to do next, call a professional. I mean, that's what we're here for. If you have the towing service, it doesn't cost you anything for me to come and get you anyway. So you might as well utilize it, because otherwise you run the risk of, doing further damage to your vessel or injuring somebody in the process. So other than just doing a quick, inspection to see if you were just lightly aground and can push yourself out. If you're not, then I would say call somebody that knows what they're doing.
If somebody's got towing service like yours, obviously, like you said, they can call you and get ungrounded. If they don't, can they still call you guys? Or, what constitutes an emergency where they need to, contact the Coast Guard or just contact you guys? I mean, what's the right process if they don't have on the water services, which, by the way, hopefully you do. I mean, I wouldn't go out and be running a boat without it. Just because
such a great peace of mind, man. Just
golly,
I've had mine for
it's like insurance.
Since I bought my boat 5 years ago. I've never used it, but I know that it's there if I need it.
Exactly. But if folks don't have that, what are their options? And like you said, Richard, this is something that once it happens, your mind's going in 20 different directions. Unless you
need to have a plan.
You just need to have like muscle memory for this stuff and like, okay, this is what I do. This is what I do. But if you're not practiced, if you haven't dealt with this, if you hadn't thought about it in a while, maybe this will trigger their mind. What's that next step?
Well, I mean, a lot of what I do when I first arrive on scene or talk with somebody is just calming them down. Is just getting them to understand the situation, getting them to look around at the situation, determine what's happened and what kind of services they need. I mean, do they need to call me to come out there and just do a light ungrounding? Do they need to call their insurance company and report a claim? Do they need to call the FWC and report, if there's injuries that have anything over $2,000 worth of damage, and if there's any injuries to personnel on board that requires anything more than first aid, you're required to report it to the FWC. So that's one of the first things. And yes, I don't mind anybody calling me. Just because you don't have my service doesn't mean that you can't utilize it or that I can't give you advice on how to move forward. Because in the end, this is my hometown. I live here. I have lived here. I'm not going anywhere. I don't mind helping people out. And if I can help somebody get underway under their own power and save their day and continue boating, then I'm happy to do so. But there's two sides to that coin too, because a lot of times if I help somebody that way and then they need me for another service, they'll call me because they know me and, they know I tried to help them. So don't hesitate to call the local tower. I mean, they deal with this all the time. I mean, a person may go aground a few times a year, if they're boating a lot, but I typically do a grounding or two every week, if not every other day during the summer. So I'm a lot more versed at it than most people. And I can usually tell people what to go through once they tell me what kind of vessel they have or propulsion system they have or where they went aground.
Folks, that's what I will call legit there as far as Cap Mac goes, man.
Take notes. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, man. That's kind of how I live my life as well through my business is, man, anybody I can help, I'm going to help them, and
it'll come back around.
It does, man. Karma.
Put it out
I've
there.
got a saying about karma. I'm not going to say it on the podcast, but she's mean and she can be mean or she can be nice. You know what I mean? So you got to pay it forward, dude.
No doubt. Well, Mac, it was definitely good talking over this topic with you. I know I'm going to be ready, the next time Richard runs me aground. So
you better be holding on to the ground also. Two hands.
But if folks do need to get in touch with you, Mac, again, you kind of cover that Perdido Key all the way over to Navarre area. If they don't have on the water services right now, of course, this is hopefully a good reminder to get that done before you start doing a whole bunch of boating. But if they need to reach out to you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, we have our 800 dispatch number through Towboat US, our local numbers, or you can Google it online and you can find us, pretty quickly. But our 800 dispatch number is 800-391-4869. And our local office number is 850-453-3775. So, I mean, we're usually, you can get in touch with somebody through one of those. The dispatch number has all of our cell phone numbers, and we'll call, everybody until they get somebody. That's usually the easiest way to do it. But one of the things that I want to circle back around to is, kind of prepare yourself for a scenario to where something can happen, and just run it through how you're going to talk to somebody after that. And one of the most important things is be able to tell somebody where you're at, your location, who you are, what your boat is, what your situation is, because the more accurate you can be with your description, the better chance we have at finding you, or just, or dispatching Coast Guard to come find you if need be.
Well, Mac, thanks again for sharing your knowledge, man. I know we appreciate the reminder, and yeah, we'll be looking forward to talking to you again next time we got a safety question, a safety reminder, or stay safe out there yourself.
All right, will do. Thank you.
Thanks, Captain Mac.
That was a good reminder from old Captain Mac, man.
That was good stuff, man. I learned a lot, and everything he said was spot on. Him and Captain Richard, be prepared. I mean, it's probably going to happen if you're on the water enough.
I mean, and one thing I wanted to add to it a little back when Captain Mac was on there, if you haven't run aground and all that, you're just not trying hard enough. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, it's just gonna happen. It happens to everybody, So anywho,
You're gonna have that on them big jobs.
You're not trying hard enough, man. Got to go hard or go home.
Hey, boys, red right returning. We got to get out of here and go get the rest of this fishing report. Enjoyed it.
Us too, man. Enjoyed it. Talk to you next time.
See you, brother.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break and hear from a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Mustad Fishing. Today, 1 in 4 hooks in the world is made by Mustad Fishing. The Mustad brand can be found in over 160 countries and covers all disciplines of fishing. Now more than just a hook manufacturer, they have expanded their product range over the years to satisfy every need of the modern fisherman and woman. They understand that anglers like you would never accept anything less than premium quality, which is why they hold themselves to that same standard. See why Mustad is the best-selling hook brand in the world. Enjoy 25% off your next order at mustad-fishing.com by using code GREATDAYS at checkout. And also brought to you by Boaters List. Boaters List is your new reliable and fast resource designed to link everyone to everything on the water. If you own or run a boat, you know how difficult it can be to find the right company for the task at hand. Boaters List makes it easy to find the service that you are looking for. Locate anything from fuel docks to service repairs or rentals of large yachts, even down to paddle boards and all things in between. BoatersList.com will always strive to make it better on the water. All right, Captain Richard, that was a great inshore report, man. I'm glad that Wesley's on board, and he's doing well, man. He knows his stuff.
Heck yeah, popping that cherry today. I liked it, man. He's man, Wes is a good dude. I really like Wes a lot. He's definitely one of the hot up and comers in the fishing world. Speaking of hot up and comers in the fishing world, we got King Marchand on here with the Lady Ann on here. How you doing this afternoon, Captain?
Doing good, Captain Richard.
Man,
you guys have been smashing the offshore fish. I've been seeing a ton of wahoo and tuna and man, everything in between.
Man, Butch, when do they not smash them on the Lady Ann, dude? I think it's just one of those things, man. It's just it's
got a magnet on it.
Yeah, the name, the boat, the crew, everything's just like a well-oiled deck-on machine, Tell us a fish story there, Cap.
Man, it's been going good. We finally with all the offshore fishing, it's been good here lately, but we finally got our first swordfish of the year a couple days ago. And man, right. I'm telling you what, that was an incredible feeling to see that big joker down there. It was awesome.
That's great, man. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. You guys caught him at night. Just kind of walk us through your setup, your depth, kind of where you guys were, what you were, your general location, if you were on a ridge or anything like that.
Yeah, well, we went over to this place. It's like a big old ditch where I've been fishing at. And our setup, I would do some daytime stuff, but I'm just not really rigged up for that yet. We've just been kind of really trying to capitalize on our nighttime sword fishing, because that's when we usually have the most time to do it, for a long day of tuna fishing. And so we just rigged up a couple of big old squid on there, and we're kind of trying to get real particular with how we rig them. I try to make sure that squid's all stretched out, get the hook hidden in it real good, and just be, I guess, more particular than what we have been throughout the past couple of years. But we sent it down there, probably sent one at 500 foot and one at 400 foot, just had 2 baits out there just to keep it simple. And they didn't sit out there for an hour and a half, and one of them got hit. the fish didn't get on there. And then the second one just got completely smashed. Fish ran up to the surface of the water, and we caught that fish in 15 minutes. It was it wasn't much to the fight, but we just winched him on up.
That's the best way to do it, man. That's awesome.
Just to expand a little knowledge on you there, King, from and I've never caught a nighttime fish, so I'm just going to say that first and forefront. I've never caught a nighttime fish, but we have Angelo DePaola, who's a contributor and a co-host on the show, and he has that nighttime that nighttime sword fishing thing. To him is like the holy grail. I feel like he almost wrote the book on a lot of that kind of stuff. One of the things he'll say, or he's given me advice on, like I said, it hadn't worked yet, and I've only tried, a handful of times on nighttime sword fishing, but full moon, you can drop your baits deeper. New moon or no moon, you want to bring them up. So he will fish them all the way down to 500 foot on like a full moon. You've got a lot of light out right now. Or I say right now, but full moon was last week. You can fish your baits a lot deeper because the light from the moon transmits through the water much deeper, and the fish will relate to that. And then as the moon goes out, he likes to bring them up, and he'll do them like, instead of going like on full moon, he'll do like start at 500, go at 300, then 250. He'll fish almost 4 lines sometimes. I think he'll bring all that up 200 feet, and start one at 3, do another one at 200, do another one 100, another one at 50, kind of deal. But man, I'm just dying to catch one at nighttime. That's got to be so cool. And I haven't been able to get out there enough times and just get lucky and get one in front of the fish. But man, it's been a spectacular year for
a lot of
sword fish. Like daytime and nighttime fishing has been really good, unbelievable. Speaking of which, I got an offshore trip scheduled tomorrow, and that's what we're going to do first thing is do a little daytime sorting first thing before we go deep driving for some groupers.
Nice.
What else been going on, King?
Well, I just want to add to that, man. One thing when I'm nighttime fishing for swordfish is you talk about your depths and all. You always need to include, keep in the back of your mind, the scope of that line. You may send that bait down 400 foot, but depending on your drift and how fast the wind's going, you always want to look at the angle of your line. You may have to add a little more weight to it, or sometimes you got 5 pounds of lead on there, and that sucker's still stringing out like it's riding on top. But always look at that angle of that line. If you got to drop down a little bit deeper or whatever you got to do to make sure you're actually fishing the depth that you want to be fishing on.
Man, that's a good thought. I never.
Great point.
Yep, never would even thought about that. About as far as the nighttime thing going,
Yep. What else you guys been up to, King? I know I saw a bunch of wahoo, man. What you got? Is that just kind of in between spots, or you guys circling a particular area? What you guys been doing to catch those wahoo?
It's really been kind of luck of the draw here lately. We've been catching some out in just open water. I've been getting some. I see a little tiny patch of grass, and I'm going to turn that sucker over there and start heading to it with my trollers out. But when I was thinking about that the other day, man, when we actually wahoo fish, a lot of times I'll go out there, especially this time of year, man. This fall time's it's just great for them. The water's getting a little bit cooler, and you just start to see more of them. So on my 2-day trips, I'll actually target them a little bit more regular. But when I'm going to target one of these wahoo, I go out to like probably the 50-mile rigs, 60-mile rigs, somewhere in there, and I'll put out a spread of 5 baits. I'll have my 2 flats on them. We'll have 2 big old like tremblers. Well, I guess they call them like Yozuri Bonitas, what the actual name is. We always call them a trembler. And then we'll run 2 more lines, probably 50 yards down further from that, run 2 wire lines with really any kind of bait you want on there, islanders or whatever. And then we'll put out another long line. Our 5th one's going to be a couple hundred yards back it's going to be a big old bullet-shaped, big old purple and black lure that we're going to set back there. We'll troll around the rigs and make some laps, and then rather than picking up and run to the next rig, we'll just kind of slow troll at 9-10 knots over there to the next one. And a lot of times you get that bite in open water, I know a lot of guys that just run and gun between rigs, and they try it here and they try it there, but heck, I'd say we catch just as many of them in transit to a rig as we do actually around the dang thing.
King, let's talk a little bit about your trolling spread there. So I just popped my cherry the other day, catching my first wahoo off my boat. Caught it on a DTX minnow, the like a big crankbait. And man, I had it short. I had it set up real short, like 40, 50 foot of line out is all I had, trolling about 10, 12 knots or so. And then I had another skirt, one of those bonita ones you're talking about, the Marauder or a Trembler type bait set up in between those two. And we got bit on the short one, real close to the boat. Do you got any rhyme or reason to how far you set them back or anything of that nature? Because there's 100 different people who say 100 different things, but it seems like lately around our area, folks talk about catching the fish real close to the boat, like in the prop wash kind of thing, and not wanting them get them too far behind the boat.
Well, I mean, one thing about that, a lot of times, even my customers would say, fish actually come up and bite those lines right next to the boat. And I say, man, you wouldn't believe the fish that we catch right there. Because what I always believe is that your boat is pretty much your biggest teaser. Them fish are used to seeing boats out there and big crew boats and oil boats, and they'll be right next to them because there's bait that gathers around them. I believe that when a fish sees your boat coming up and it's not going too fast, I think they'll actually come up and check out and see what's around your boat. And I think that's one of the reasons that we get a lot of bites like that right there close. It's just we always have, and I think we always will, But when I'm trolling my spread, my number one thing, I try to troll as many lines as I can. I've had 12 lines out there before, but I try to troll as many that we can handle without getting them tangled up, So naturally, you have to stagger them and all that to keep them from getting tangled. For that particular wahoo spread, I pull only 5 lines on my size of boat because that's what you can pull going that fast and turning that sharp. Any more than that, you're just kind of biting off more than you can chew. But I like to cover a good bit of water. So my close-in baits are probably 20 foot. My next 2 back are probably 50, 60 foot. And then my long one that back there is probably 150 foot back there. And when you're sitting up there and you're looking at your spread, you may see a little hole in it. You may want to let one back a little further, just whatever it takes to really cover the whole spread of the back of the boat.
Yep.
Roger. Cool. I like hearing about that up close and personal kind of stuff. Because you hear, back in the day, and I don't think it's hogwash, but you'll see these guys selling boats or whatever, and they'll be like, man, this one's a real good fish raiser, she really raises the fish. And I really think there is something to that.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind.
There's I think there's probably like a harmonic to the diesel engine and a splash of the hull, and
I think there's a lot to it.
The wake pulling through. You got to figure a boat just pushing through the water in general has got to sound like, got to sound like some bait crashing on the surface and whatnot. It sounds different than whatever the heck's going on. If that fish is hungry, he's going to come up there and take a peek-see, and see what's going on.
I don't think there's any doubt in my mind. There's some fish that raise fish. There's some boats that raise fish better than others.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say, King?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer in that.
Me too.
It's funny. It's so funny, man. When I originally got into this, I bought it from worked with Cap Mike, your dad, for a while, and he always swore to me that if you ran that port generator when you were marlin fishing, you would catch more marlin. And it's sure enough, man, it's proven time and time again. When that port generator was running, we would catch more fish than if we ran the other generator.
That's true. I think it's.
He told me that, and I thought he was totally making that up. But he was a firm believer in that. And so guess what? When we go marlin fishing, if we're out there, we're going to be running that port generator.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think it has a lot to do with the motor mounts and the vibration of each motor that's in that hull. I swear, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
What else you guys been doing, man? Any deep dropping or anything like that?
No, I've been doing a good bit of scamp fishing. And we've been doing well on that, but another one of them bad stories, the sharks, ever since that last storm, it pushed all them sharks inshore after some of that natural bottom. And, I mean, the scamp bite was on fire. We must have we probably hooked 20 scamp. My last trip, I think we came back with 5 of them just because you couldn't get away from them, I started in there probably 220 foot, worked out to 270, and then we worked out to about 300 or so. And it seems like the deeper the water that you got, the less frequent you would get a bite, but the less frequent you get eaten off by a shark too. So you kind of have to pick the lesser between two evils. But as far as them biting, it's been great. You can send any kind of live bait down. We've been sending down cigar minnows and croakers and horn bellies and just all kind of stuff, and they've been chewing it up.
Talk about your rig a little bit for that. You just doing kind of like a standard sow rig in that shallower 200 to 300 something foot of water, or are you using electric reels with a weight on the bottom and a 3-way swivel? What are you doing for that?
Well, I have a certain setup. I like to keep probably 6 scamp rods out there, which is going to be, I don't use a sow rig because if you send it all the way down that quick, a lot of times your bait actually gets tangled around your main line.
Yeah, it's going to helicopter.
When you're dropping down that deep, I don't like to use that. So I use a 3-way swivel for my scamp rigs. Probably, you tie the top of the 3-way swivel to the main line. You've got a branch out that sticks out probably 18 inches for your hook for your live bait. Then the bottom's got maybe a 6-inch leader for your lead on there. That way, when you're fishing it, you get to the bottom, get your line tight, and your bait is actually suspended off of the bottom, just 6 or 7 inches or so to keep it kind of swimming right there. While we're doing that, I always have a couple beeliner rigs down there, a couple 3-hook rigs for beeliners and white snappers, because in what I've seen is that when you're catching beeliners and white snappers on this natural bottom, I believe that the fish are coming to your baits, and I think the scamp see that too. Mm-hmm. And so we actually get more scamp bites while we're fishing with the 2-hook or the 3-hook rigs. I mean, if we fish all scamp lines, we don't get as many bites because it seems like they just don't get as excited down there.
More bait in the water, the better. You kind of get them frenzied up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's beeliners or white snappers, all of the above are going to come to it and check it out.
Yep, that definitely makes sense, man.
I always think too with that deep dropping, man. I always tell all my guys when we're doing that type of fishing, when that weight hits the bottom, you need to click that gear, that reel and gear, and get tight quick, because it seems like 9 times out of 10, as soon as that weight hits, boom, the fish is like right on it. And
I think that weight puts out a plume of mud or sand or whatever down there, and it gets everything interested.
And it gets their attention, and that's one thing, you see somebody like over there with the reel and it hits the bottom, it kind of takes them a minute to.
They're sitting there pulling out some bird nest or something like that. Your bait's gone, Cap.
Yeah. Whatever. As soon as that weight hits the bottom, I'm like, I want somebody tight to be able to feel that bite. Do you like that too, King?
Oh yeah. When they get down to the bottom, you're like exactly like what y'all was saying. Sometimes you'll spend 10 seconds, getting your line tied or picking out a little bird nest real quick. And by that time, that fish done came up and bumped it, and you're sitting there and you have no idea you have no bait. Yep. You'll be sitting down there fishing on credit for 5 minutes waiting on a bite, and you reel it up and you say, man, I don't know what happened to it. So, yeah, when you get down there, same thing with scamp fishing, snapper fishing, all the bottom. And you better get that sucker tight the moment that you hit the bottom.
Yep, they don't bite on that credit, man. You got to put that cash money on the line, bro.
That's right. You can't stick that old Discover on there.
What about tuna, man? I know you guys have done pretty good with the tuna. What's the water quality like in those kind of short rigs? They call them the ghetto. I assume that's where you guys have been a little bit. There've been some bait. What's been going on out there?
Oh man, the water's been beautiful out there, and you can tell it's starting to get like what we were talking about earlier, that fall water. I've been seeing a lot of whale sharks. So kind of like what we talked about with the wahoo, how a lot of people go from rig to rig. We've actually been doing better in open water. When I'm going from rig to rig, I may see a school of fish 2 miles away and some birds. I mean, something that you wouldn't see if you just weren't really paying attention to it. Mm-hmm. And my last trip, we came upon 5 whale sharks, and all 5 of them were covered up with fish. Just big old black fins jumping. Not many yellowfin, though, just a couple of them. But just a lot of skipjacks and black fins, and we did get a couple yellowfin off of them. And that's really what saved our trip, was just paying attention to what's going on, miles outside of your little bubble. The water quality is beautiful. The fish are kind of scattered. There's some here and some there, but they're really concentrated.
How about all the flying fish? Golly, I went offshore last Saturday. I could not believe how many flying fish were out there. Just so much life, like you were talking about too, man. Time of year, it's fall. Water quality is improving and getting good, but the amount of life that's just
that's what Wesley was talking about. There's just bait everywhere.
Yeah,
anything that looks fishy. Okay, whenever you see those whale sharks, like you said, paying attention. We talk about that all the time on here. Just pay attention, in between spots. Just read the water. Whenever you see those whale sharks and those open water tuna, what's your success there? Are you throwing out a small spread of some smaller ballyhoo and dragging them? Or are you throwing out live baits? Or how are you successful with those open water tuna?
Man, not to give you a short answer, Butch, but we're going to be ready for anything. You know, I'm going to start out with my small baits, like some small ballyhoos and some light leader and stuff, and troll right through them, and just troll right through the middle of them. If I'm trolling through them, I'm getting mostly small fish, little black fins and skipjacks, a nice fish, but just not the big yellowfin that we're looking for. I'll pull right up into the middle of them, get me a bat full of live baits, and I'll throw a big sling them out there. You know, sling 15 of them out there at one time. And then we'll throw our hooks right there. It's got the baits on them right in the middle of it. And it seems like, you know, if I'm not catching them the other way, then I'll catch more of them, more of the bigger fish on the live baits, because it just singles out some of the smaller fish.
For sure.
Also, what I like to do that is throw a popper while we're doing that. When you throw them live baits out and them fish come up to it and they're eating on it, you better be ready with that popper and throw it right there in the middle of them. It seems like we've had some success getting some bigger fish like that also.
Yep, man, that's a great report, King. You know, we got to get that tip from you. What you think for an offshore tip this week?
Man, I may have already gave it away to you, but my tip for the week would be to pay attention to what's going on around you. You know, not just in your little bubble. You got to think outside the box. You got to be looking miles up the road, miles left and right, and capitalize on something. If you see something that looks out of the ordinary, take some time and ride over there and check it out. And a lot of times it'll surprise you what's actually on it.
Man, that's something I always think about, King, is one thing I've been saying for years in seminars and on the podcast and you know, writing articles and things like that is, man, fishing is a feeling. And as a fisherman, if you're cruising along, man, you get a feeling about something, or you see something you thought you saw or whatnot. Don't second guess yourself, Rick, and believe it.
Go see what's up.
And go see what's up and figure it out, because 9 times out of 10,
there's something to it.
The feeling is usually right, you know, and especially when you start to get some time behind you, you know, you've been doing it for a while.
It's not just a gut feeling. There's a reason.
No,
for it.
It's not like when I run past a crab trap and I'm like,
might have been a triple tail.
Was there a triple tail? They're not, man. There was always one there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
That's a great tip, man.
Yep. That's a great report, buddy. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you, Captain King?
They can call that phone number, 251-861-5302, or heck, they can just go to the website and see what's all available, Captain Mike Online, and check it out right there.
Awesome, buddy. We appreciate the report. That's a great tip, and we look forward to talking with you next time.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Keep whacking them. All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Y'all take a minute to check out a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by SunSouth. Strength, speed, and versatility, a winning combination on, off, and in the field. At SunSouth, that's exactly what you get with quality John Deere equipment, affordably priced and ready to tackle projects on your own property. Like the John Deere 5 Series tractors with discounts up to $3,500 at SunSouth. And don't forget to service your John Deere Gator at SunSouth with free pickup and delivery packages. Come see us at your neighborhood SunSouth. Equipment for those that do. Some restrictions may apply. See dealer for details. Offer expired October 31st, 2021. And also brought to you by Test Calibration. If your diesel has low power or is consuming excessive amounts of fuel, these are common signs that your turbocharger may need to be rebuilt. Don't waste your money online with the cheapest options where you get no support after the sale. Test Calibration has been selling and servicing diesel, turbochargers, and fuel injection systems since 1976. No matter if you're running a diesel in your boat, tractor, or truck, Test Calibration can help you. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratindieselandturbo.com. All right, Captain Richard, let's head on down to Orange Beach, Alabama, Sam's Bait and Tackle. Let's see what old Chris Vecsey is up to. Get a surf/inshore/kayak/nearshore report. What you say, Chris?
I like that. That was pretty good. That's probably about right.
Slash and ish.
Slash something. No, it's been pretty good. The fishing's been awesome. Weather obviously was really good until yesterday.
Yep. So we were talking about earlier, man, kind of been stormy around the last few mornings, kind of brought us back to our late summer kind of feel there.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
So you've been in the surf some. Let's start with that, man. What you guys seeing from the surf?
A lot of flounder and redfish. Flounder bite's been killer. Just pretty much walking the close like waterline troughs and stuff and throwing soft plastics, throwing flies, a little bit of everything. But any of the deeper ones that have a lot of current are holding, pretty good numbers of flounder right now. A lot of small fish, but plenty of keepers.
It's so exciting to see. We're catching a bunch of like little small, anywhere from 8 to 12 inch flounder over here our way around Mobile Bay and Mississippi Sound. So incredibly awesome to see a bunch of numbers of those small fish, because we know
It's got to be a good sign.
those are going to be our good ones for next year and years to come. So man, it's just tickles me to death to see that. Is everybody kind of experiencing that down y'all's area with the flounder?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of smaller fish. Fish that are only 1 or 2 years old. And the numbers are great, but I kind of feel hesitant about wanting to say that, man, flounder numbers have recovered. A lot of people are saying, see, they're already coming back. I think that's a little early to make that call, but it's definitely good to see a lot of juvenile fish again.
Yeah, you sound disappointed about it. That's what
do we need to bring a positive Pat on here and give you a lesson on positivity or what?
No, I've seen the comments a lot lately, because the flounder numbers have been good. Everybody's like, man, the flounder are already bouncing back. And I just always tell people, be cautious with that. It doesn't mean, go out and take more than your limit and things like that. So still think it's something that should be preserved, but the flounder number is definitely solid. Still not catching a lot of southern flounder. It's mostly Gulfs. All the southern flounder mostly been in the bays and rivers. Actually, I haven't been catching any on the beach side. That's
interesting. Yeah, I've only, to my knowledge, I think I've only ever caught, but before I was paying attention, one Gulf flounder. Since I've been doing this, all these flounder tagging projects with Dylan and Sea Lab. So that's pretty interesting. I think that the Gulf flounder tends to be a smaller flounder than the southern flounder. Much smaller.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the state record, or I don't think they really get much more than about 5 pounds. We catch tons of, anywhere from 8 to say 16, 17 inch Gulf flounder. I've caught them up to right at 22 inches, so they will get up to 4.5, 5 pound fish, but it's not very common.
Right.
But plenty of legal fish. Plenty of fish are going to be above 14 inches.
Right. That's neat.
What about pompano off the beach?
I haven't done any fishing for pompano lately, and I haven't caught any on accident while fishing for trout. That usually happens a good bit in the fall, but even on hard baits, top waters, things like that, there has been good numbers of caught. A lot of our customers are coming in showing me pictures of pompano they're catching. We need the water temps to come down another 2 to 3 degrees, get it back in like the upper 70s really is where it starts getting good, but it's not far.
Speaking to the water temp, earlier this week and into last week when we had that little cold snap in the bay, I was seeing close, 74, 75 degree water temperatures in shallow water around Mobile Bay, Mississippi Sound, and then I had one day where I went out in the Gulf and it was 80 degrees all day until it kind of got back in close. And then today, bouncing around yesterday and today, 79, 82, right in there. So probably not far off, hopefully we'll get another little blow out of the north and
hope so. I'm ready.
Keep it cool, man. That was
it was so glorious.
It was such a treat having to wake up and go put my hoodie on, go back inside, put my hoodie on to go outside, Were y'all feeling that down there?
Yeah, it definitely got cooler, and me being a warm natured person, I'm kind of like, I never want summer to end, but I'm not going to lie. It felt nice having that little bit drier air this week. I know everybody was waiting for it. Plus it always kicks off that good fall bite, both inshore and offshore. So it was definitely welcomed.
Yep. I used to be like you back in the day, man. Used to want it to be summertime, 365 days a year. And I'm not getting old by any means, but older,
wiser.
Yeah. Wiser, man. I welcome that daggum cold weather, man. I just can't wait for it to chill on off and get I don't want it to happen too fast though. It's kind of like,
I like the in between.
Well, it was kind of like we had this spring that lasted forever.
Yeah.
Like April through
May,
the end of May. The water temp stayed in the 70s for forever. That time of year, so I don't know. Hopefully, maybe it'll be a good fall. We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know. They're saying it's going to be I guess the almanac people, they say it's going to be a cold winter.
Oh yeah, I'll believe that whenever I see it. I say that every year.
I always laugh every time somebody tells me that. Yeah.
Yeah, they do a good job with the forecasting as of late. That's for sure.
Anything?
It's a 50-50 shot though.
Yep. Anything shaking it inshore off the beaches, back in the back bays and whatnot over there with trout and redfish?
Trout numbers have been good. Some of the size has been pretty impressive. Definitely catching a lot of reds. A lot of fish are still on the grass beds, and a lot of fish are still in open water. Nothing has moved into like the creeks or anything. And I've been in the kayak a good bit over the last couple weeks, and I've gone up some of the bayous and lower parts of the rivers, and I'm not really getting any numbers of fish from those places yet. So it's still too warm. But and if you hit the grass beds and work some of the docks and stuff down here in Orange Beach around Perdido Key, there are absolutely loads of redfish. Catching slot reds should not be a problem right now, and you can catch them on just about anything. Live bait, dead bait, artificials of almost every kind. Catching reds, there's no science here right now. Just go fishing pretty much. But big trout, man. Some of the trout I've seen on the grass beds is impressive. Like a lot of 26 to 28 inch fish. We saw a fish a couple weeks ago that I would, no BSing, I would say that fish was between 30 and 32 inches. So there's some big fish in some very shallow water right now, and they are extremely difficult to catch.
Damn it, man. Sounds like you're over there in Jurassic Park or something, huh?
That's a hammer.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Lots of big trout.
Yep. Sounds like you need to do some early morning, late afternoon, or nighttime fishing. Have you ever tried that? Have you ever tried like going to some of those areas where you've seen like where some big fish live, and just fishing in pitch black dark, like not around the lights or anything like that?
All the time. Matter of fact, I think I've talked about it on previous podcasts before. I do it. Not only do I do it a lot in the bay and in shallow water, but I do it on the beach a lot, especially on nights with a full moon. Pretty much anywhere from late March or April into say October. After that gets cold on the beach and I get cold in that shallow water, and for whatever reason, down the south ends I won't do good. But in the winter time, if you really want to catch a giant trout in the wintertime, the best thing to do is get up in the bayous and upper creeks, fish very shallow water, fish away from all the lights out in complete darkness, and fish either jerk baits or flukes, working them with pretty good action, but long pauses in between. You can really do damage on some seriously big trout. I'll have to send you a picture of a fish I caught on the beach actually several years back, doing pretty much what we're talking about right now, fishing out in the dark, away from light. This trout's probably about 32 inches. I didn't have a tape measure. I just kind of used the rod. I'll never know what she weighed. Definitely north of 9 pounds, but that's how you get a lot of those big trout. You got to get away from the lights. You got to try to catch them, in those moments where they can't see as well. They don't see your tackle. That's definitely the prime way to get a truly big fish.
Man, that's incredible.
That's a big fish.
Yeah.
I know we're on the Northwest Florida Fishing Report. I hear Joe and those guys talking about sometimes they do the same thing from a kayak. They'll go and pitch black, fish little drop offs and things like that.
Captain Bobby and I have won a couple of tournaments. I wouldn't say all the fish came like in the pitch black dark, but that's one of the things we've started doing is
fishing before it gets light.
Well, yeah. Whenever they let you go, you know what I mean? They say, hey, you can fish, man. Like we're getting out there and we're getting to where we think the biggest fish live, where we know as far as our scouting goes tells us, and man, we're getting out there and it's worked out. I mean, for a fact, 2 different times, you know what I mean? Where it was like way too dark
to even see where you're casting.
Yeah, I mean you can't see anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can, and like I'm using like I've been on Captain Bobby's boat and using the navigation light to get a backlash out. You know what I mean? Because I can't see, like that's how dark it is. And heck, one time I remember the trolling motor little green light was too bright. It was in my eyes too much. I had to throw something on top of it, like a towel or something. But
ambient lighting.
Yeah, that's something interesting that I'm kind of starting to think about. I mean, I definitely don't want to wake up and go fishing in the middle of the night anymore. I'm old and
you can start doing night charters.
Got kids, and
you could do like
all that kind of stuff, So yeah,
it pays off. It certainly pays off though, and it doesn't have to be on nights of the full moon. But I will say, full moon nights have always been my most productive if I'm fishing just total darkness away from the lights.
Right, man. That's cool.
Yep, that's a great report, man. Man, Chris, before we let you go, I saw a snook yesterday on Facebook from South Alabama, so I've got to hear this story. Go ahead and walk us through that, man.
Well, I actually took a buddy of ours, Austin Luke, who both of y'all know. Austin's had a pretty tough year, as you both know, with COVID complications, and he survived some pretty extraordinary odds. But it was good to finally get him on the water yesterday and take him up to some backwaters. We were trying to target a few different things. We were actually trying to target some tarpon to put some tags on for CCA. We found some fish, had a hard time getting them to eat. Austin did finally, hook one and jumped it off. But what was really cool is we get back in a couple of these spots, and Austin just started making. I was on the pulling platform. Austin just started making some blind casts with the fly rod, and he hooks the fish, and it starts jumping, and I'm looking at him like, what is that? And then it gets closer, and it lays up on its side, and I see that line run down the side, and of course I freaked out because how often do you see a snook in Alabama? So we flipped it up in the boat, got some pictures with it. Really cool thing, to catch a snook in Alabama, but that wasn't the end of it. A little while later, Austin actually hooked another one, and unfortunately it came off, next to the boat. But I can't imagine, catching not one but two snook in Alabama on the same day. Maybe it's a sign of things to come, but both Austin and I were pretty pumped about it. So that was really, really cool. Just something different.
Yep, that's stellar, man. And I think we've talked about it on here. It's interesting to see the kind of new and different species, like the permit, some of the things coming up from South Florida. And it's going to be interesting to see if those fish kind of flourish and see if it becomes a thing.
Yeah. It's probably one of those things. I don't know. I'm not going to like blow the whistle and say like global warming or something. You know
right.
what I mean? Not at all. But it's probably one of those things. You get a couple years where it's a little milder, and then it's a couple years where it's a little colder, and some of those fish sneak up here. But man, Chris, that's awesome. Getting Austin out on the water. I've fished Austin before, and he's a very good fisherman. I actually feel like I could probably take credit. I don't know if he, hopefully he's listening, but I could probably take credit for teaching him how to fish the slick lure in Foul River here, a couple bends down from where we're sitting right here at Butch's house. We were entertaining some of his customers one day on the boat, and he told me at the end of the day, hey man, thank you for taking me to slick school.
It's definitely different. It takes some getting used to.
I put one of one of my bait casters that I don't really give the body to use in his hands, man, and he wore it out all day. Knew how to. Guy knows how to fish.
I like Austin.
Really, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. He as far as putting it, like when I'd spot a fish roll or something, like as far as putting a fly where it would need to go, making a cast where it needed to go, and in a timely manner. I mean, he's a very good angler, very easy to be on the water with. Just a good time yesterday. Well, until the wind kicked up and we had a nice little choppy ride back to the launch. But we had a really good day on the water in general.
Yeah, that's called fishing, Chris. I don't know if you've heard of it or not.
That's right. You gonna have
that? Unfortunately, we've been acquainted.
Yep. Well, that's awesome, man. That's a great story. Glad Austin got to get out, and that's crazy. I wonder what the percentage of people, anglers in South Alabama, have hooked two snook in one day.
No, I know, right?
I would say it's very small.
I would say this: there's obviously been snook caught here over the years, and there's usually a few of them caught every year. But I'm going to be willing to bet that Austin is the first to catch a snook in Alabama on the fly rod. I'd say there's a first for that there. It's definitely a special catch, even if it's a small fish. It's just something that's way out of its range. Just maybe a sign of things to come. There's definitely been some bigger snook caught just a little bit east of here. There's a 33-incher caught in Pensacola Pass last summer. So
wow,
given the size of the fish that we're finding in the bays, those aren't fish that migrated here. Those fish had to have been spawned somewhat close by. To be in our waterways. So who knows what we'll see in the future.
Yep. I guess time will tell, man. That's a great report. We always enjoy hearing from you, brother. If people want to get up with you, come pick your brain over there at Sam's, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Just give us a call at the store, 251-981-4245. We're open 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day of the week. Other than that, obviously you just stop on by. I mean, we we love to talk fishing, and just talk shop in general. So you're welcome to come by any given, whenever.
Awesome.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking care of our listeners, and we look forward to hearing from you next time.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, that was another awesome report. It was brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by Alabama Marine Resources Division. The Alabama Marine Resources Division reminds all recreational anglers who harvest gray triggerfish, greater amberjack, or red snapper that their catch must be reported through Snapper Check. This includes vessels, kayaks, and shore anglers who possess any of these reef fish. Reporting is mandatory and must be done prior to landing fish in Alabama, regardless of where the fish were caught. Anglers can report to Snapper Check online at outdooralabama.com or through the official Outdoor AL app. For more information about Snapper Check or any of the 2021 fishing seasons, please visit outdooralabama.com. All right, man. We got to do What Did You Learn before we get out of here today?
My favorite part.
What'd you learn today?
I just learned, just listening to all the contributors and what I currently have been seeing as well. It's a great time to be on the water right now.
We're getting there. I think we're close to the fall transition.
Yeah. It's a great time to be on the water. You're starting to see everything move in the direction of fall, like with the bait. Captain King was talking about offshore, about
a lot of life. Wesley was saying the same thing.
Yep. A lot of life, a lot of nice clean water out there. So if you're a blue water guy, you got a lot of opportunity in a lot of different places.
Find you a weather window.
Yep. And then inshore,
a lot of flounder, man. A lot of flounder talk. Man, Wesley and Chris were talking about flounder galore.
Heck yeah.
It's a good thing.
They're definitely doing their thing. I'm just tickled to see the numbers. And again, what I was kind of giving Chris a little hell about right there on the last segment, about the small ones, man. God, it's great to see a bunch of small fish. Like it
has to be a good thing,
man. It tickles me to death to see a bunch of those, because like we were talking about earlier in the show, man, Dylan was saying, like, we tagged, just dart tagged a bunch of, like 10 to 12 inch flounder that we caught at the end of the tagging period last year. And some of those fish are getting recaptured, and they're like 6 inches bigger, 8 inches bigger than what they were the year before. Unbelievable how fast they grow. This just seems like they're thriving. There's plenty for them to eat.
It's cool to learn about them, man. It's cool to learn about their just like that. We wouldn't know without this tagging project. You wouldn't know how fast they're growing.
Yeah, man. They're just such a
cool fish.
They're really cool fish. There's such a what were we talking about on the boat the other day? They're kind of like a cat.
That's right.
They
stalk their prey,
creep along and stalk and just sitting there waiting to whoop pound. They're
cool
and
fish.
That unmistakable thump of a flounder just sends. It makes the hair on my neck stand up.
Well, I wouldn't know based upon our but maybe next time.
We forgot to call Wesley out. Well, we had Wesley on here, but Wesley went on a Wesley would for everybody's wondering what we're talking about. Butch came with us on a tagging trip the other day, and he flunked out. He
skunk flunked.
He dropped the goose egg, which that'll happen on the big jobs.
I tried my best. What do you do?
Yeah. Wes came on one with us last year, and heck, I think me and Dylan made him look like he was standing still. We were running by him so fast, and Wes is like,
right, what do you do?
Threw his hands up,
right. I'm trying my best. What do you do?
It's just until you've done a lot of it, and a lot of what we were doing, like with you and with Wes, we're both fishing in Dog River that day. You're fishing that deeper stuff, and you gotta, you're fishing these real steep banks, so you're throwing up shallow in 3 or 4 foot of water, and then by the time you get your lure to the boat, it's in 20 foot of water, 15 foot of water. So you have to be able to know how to walk that lure on down.
Yep, it's tricky.
And that's kind
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about. Is what Wes was talking about with having the right setup, having the right rod and whatnot.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to this fall, man. Everything's setting up real nice.
like
about to eat a big dinner, man.
Yep.
Thanksgiving dinner's coming soon, sooner than we think.
Yeah, it is, man, for sure. All right, guys, that wraps it up for another great segment. Let's check out a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by MB Ranch King. MB Ranch King hunting blinds and feeders are built to last right here in the USA. With durability and convenience in mind, MB Ranch King's maintenance-free blinds are constructed with high-grade steel and come in a variety of sizes to meet any hunter's needs. They offer high-quality, easy-to-use corn and protein feeders that can be filled with both feet on the ground. Call Kevin today for more info or a quote at 205-807-2937. MB Ranch King, built in the pursuit of perfection. And also brought to you by Hilton's Offshore Charts. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. All right, Captain Richard, that's another great Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, man. I appreciate you co-hosting with me today.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed myself over here. As always, it's fun to get on here and talk with everybody. And
good reports.
Yeah, man, just go all around the world,
Yeah.
Inshore to the beach to the offshore and
make our rounds.
Circle back around.
That's right.
A lot of fun.
It is, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip inshore or offshore, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Coldbloodedfishing.com is my website. Got my phone number and contact on there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, other good places to find us, see what we've been up to.
Yep.
We're just try to stay pretty current on what we've been catching, what we've been doing.
10-4, man. All right, so that's going to wrap it up this week. You guys, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the new show each week. We'll see y'all next week. You guys keep whacking them. Be safe out there. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by Coastal Conservation Association of Alabama. Check them out at ccaalabama.org. And also brought to you by Fish Bites. Fish Bites don't stink or leave a stink on hands and everything else. Won't come off the hook during a hard cast or in rough waters. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits and tackle at fishbites.com. And also brought to you by Photonis Defense. Photonis Defense PD Pro Ultralight Ultra Compact Night Vision Systems. Simply the best in class night vision systems ever built. Contact them at photonisdefense.com to learn more. Photonis Defense, Masters of Darkness. And also brought to you by B&M Pole Company. B&M Pole Company is more than just panfish. Check out their Sam's Super Salt series designed for shallow water fishing for trout and redfish at bnmpoles.com.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report brought to you by me, Angelo DePaola, The Coastal Connection. Find us online at thecoastalconnection.com.
And also brought to you by Killer Dock. Killer Dock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. Killer Dock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit killerdock.com to see more. And also brought to you by Sam's Bait and Tackle. Sam's is your one-stop shop located at 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach, Alabama. Stop by and shop or call them at 251-981-4245 today. And also brought to you by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Enjoy less stress knowing you have reduced your risk for damage with Foster Contracting. Check them out at fortifiedroofingpros.com or call them at 251-447-2978.